Hello, this is Paloma. I come back with the story the sky is telling for the next few days. Beautiful family, thank you for sharing space and time with me. So in this endless love story that we live, that we tell, I was reading a commentary a few days ago on one of my channels, and there was this person saying, like, astrologers are always talking about deep and profound changes coming. And I was kind of laughing about it, but maybe we are. Maybe that's life. Constant change, That is why I believe balance is a dynamic experience, This art of living, of learning to keep balance or equilibrium and to move with the natural time, which is cyclical, really, which is spiral, and it expands and it contracts. And today I want to talk about retrograde motion, because this is an energy that invites us inwards, that invites a reflection, that we can walk over our steps so we can look again, perhaps find understanding and new perspectives to whatever we have been through. And when we actually go along with this retrieving movement of the planets, they become a blessing for us to cultivate this art of living in balance, more integrated and completing ourselves continuously. Astrology is, in fact, the study of cycles and patterns. So even though I tend to do these videos each week, there is always this larger story, framework, and context within the story itself, that becoming aware of sometimes helps us make sense of how to live in the day-to-day and what kind of story we are a part of. So just as a reminder, I do want to bring part of that context today. So Neptune entered Aries after over 160 years on the 30th of March. That's not so long ago. And then Saturn entered Aries on the 25th of May. That's only 6 weeks ago. And they are both now in retrograde motion. So Neptune started on the 4th of July on the 2nd degree of Aries, and this 13th of July we have Saturn stationing retrograde on the 1st degree of Aries. So it hasn't been a very long time that we've been feeling this very new energy, and yet it has been quite mobilizing. I imagine also because the very, very new character there is Neptune next to Saturn, that the energy of Saturn feels a bit just strange, unfamiliar. So this apparent movement of the planets walking backwards, usually, or it can bring historical memory, collective and individual, to the surface. Because there is an attempt with this movement to find a way to settle our energy in regards of the past as well. By this I mean that sometimes we look at these cycles not in order to repeat them, but in order to evolve from them. Okay. Saturn and Neptune are not in the exact conjunction, which happens in February 2026, yet as you can see they are extremely close, and this is a very alive story already in our energy fields. I do want to say that in this retrograde motion, Neptune is going to go back to the 29th degree of Pisces. Saturn is going to go back to the 25th degree of Pisces in both of their movements. By this, I want to remind us that they're going to pass over again this point of creation, this crack in the universe, which is the last degrees of Pisces and first degrees of Aries, and that they're going to go past this space, this very magical space in the sky again in 2026. Without coming back in a very, very long time. So that's an extremely liminal experience of 2025. It's like feeling that we are standing where everything ends and everything begins. And right now we have a sort of pause, so we can reflect about everything that this has already moved and triggered in all of our bodies through this couple of great teachers, right? Because Saturn is the steward of time. He's the steward of truly the impermanence of the physical reality, and also the legacy that transcends time. It's quite beautiful. He's about boundaries, of course, and this very three-dimensional reality. Yet Neptune is the one who dissolves boundaries and forms and is the steward of the spiritual realm. So this is in fact the union of the spiritual and material realms in the school of the I Am, of the beginning of the divine spark. They last were conjoined in 1989 in a different sign. Conjoined in Aries, they were in, I think, the early 700s. Yet, in the 0 degree of Aries, as they're going to conjoin in February 2026, it is said that it's been over 12,000 years. So, yes, there is that. And in fact, in this occasion, there is this very particular configuration in the sky where they are speaking with Pluto in Aquarius, also speaking with Urano, whom just entered Gemini, and there's obviously also a dialogue between Urano and Pluto. This is this, the word, how do you translate this? Little great trine of talents, which through this flow, because trines and sextiles are fluid and harmonious energy, are catalyzing change. Nevertheless, what they bring is change. No? And even though these are harmonic dialogues, these are transpersonal planets that bring about change that can be quite brutal, quite disruptive, and that is in fact dissolving the structures of the reality as we knew it, and also calling us into the new world or the new structure of what we are going to experience as reality a little ahead. So this is so big that it's hard to wrap our heads around. But we can bring it into our own lives and experiences and maybe sense what is happening around us. And we are going to see that there is this great dissolving and disillusionment at the same time that there is an emergence of new identities, dreams, relationships, plans, projects, visions, and really the route we thought our life was taking, right? So I think this is in fact the Great Reset. Not exactly what the outer agenda wants to impose in terms of this particular phase, the Great Reset, but this is a great beginning, a great resetting reality and humanity. On a personal level, we have a lot more power and agency over how we flow with these changes, with this becoming flexible, adapting, participating and co-creating with this invitation. On a collective level, I believe there's a different timing for this to be truly integrated, and even though our participation is crucial for this, we don't have the same agency in that dimension of reality than the power we have in the here and now with what we choose to do immediately. And yet, what we choose to do now matters for everyone. So, I could ask what is changing, but I mean, I guess I could rephrase it better with what isn't changing, you see? And the perception of whether this is good or bad is truly subjective. It really depends on the capacity of each individual to flow with change, to change with change, no? The thing is with Neptune here, there are several layers or dimensions of experience, not only the very evident Saturnian reality that is being revealed. With Neptune, there is a revealing of many other layers, and with Pluto as well, and with Urano, because this is all about transparency and truth, and this is all being dissolved. The influence of Urano, I would say, brings about this awakening in a very intempestive or surprising, shocking sometimes way. Like from one moment to another, you are simply in a different place. Everything's different. And with Pluto, the thing is, we tend to have to go through the threshold of a crisis of death and rebirth. If we actually think of these spaces that they are occupying in our charts and also in the sky, plus the activations of every personal or very fast planet speaking to this particular configuration, it's like it's everything everywhere at the same time, really. And at some point in my sharings in 2025, I said something like, I don't think there is, so the saying in Spanish is like, there will be no rock left unturned. I think that might work in English, no? I think that's how I see 2025. I don't see any space in our stories and our lives that won't be part of this transfiguration of the world. So Saturn, right? Because he's the one stationing direct right now when I'm doing this video. He represents authority, the integration of the material reality of which we ought to be responsible as well. It's discipline, commitment, work, effort, boundaries, structure, shaped, time, and this principle of maturation. So from now until the end of November and the beginning of December, which is when both of these planets, Neptune and Saturn, will actually start their direct motion, I think we're just going to have this sensation that we're not sure what world we're living in, you know, as everything moves quite with some haste, no, with an acceleration, and it's kind of hard to keep updated with the updates. The importance of grounding, really, of coming back and back and back into presence, into our body, into recalibrating and adjusting with some agility to everything that is going on, and to resource ourselves so we can be present and have what we need to nurture ourselves through it and to find center. We are in a state of flux, no, of change, of mutability that doesn't look like it's going to get stabilized very soon. So it's more about riding the wave. If we look ahead, our very immediate need for certainty in the depth of this embrace of Saturn and Neptune, this is a resurgence, a remembering of who we are, a being reborn to the truth of who we are, and to make of the dream something tangible, something concrete. This is a conjunction of the architecture of reality with initiative, with passion, with action, with discipline, with maturity, with spiritual connection, individuation, and interdependence through the unity consciousness of Neptune and the individual responsibility of Saturn in Aries. It's hallucinating, really, no? And it is moving what it is moving, though, in our own lives. So that's happening. Now, in a smaller frame of time for this week, not only that is going on, Mercury is going to start his retrograde motion. He does this 3 times a year. It's really quite often. I don't know why it's so noisy every time, like everyone's like, oh, Mercury, but this happens all the time. It's actually quite a blessing because it allows an hygiene, a cleansing of our perception. So this time he begins on the 18th of July until the 11th of August. He's going to retrograde in Leo, which is the school of the heart. As always, it's an opportunity to reconsider, reflect, evaluate, like untie the knots of our emotional and mind realms, to cleanse our perception and to update it in our heart and with our heart, especially now that this is happening in Leo. So yes, the world of communications, especially around the days in which he stations to change direction, becomes a bit trippy, no, wobbly. Because the impulse is really looking inwards and not outwards. Does this mean the world should stop? Not really, but it means we ought to pay more attention, to become much more aware when we are interacting with the outside, because most of our attention and intention is really in a process of renewal, of update, and of changing the anchor point from which we are experiencing life. So as this is happening in Leo in this occasion, it really points to our creativity and self-expression, to the reconnecting ourselves to the truth of our spark, of our radiance, and to self-love, to confidence, to trust, to self-esteem, to, I would say, retrieving the nobility of the heart and shining as a birthright, expressing this light, this magic, as a service that brings strength to the collective, because Aquarius in front with Pluto there, of course. So if we are to be we are the architects of this new dream of the world, we ought to be quite well anchored in our hearts, in the beauty of being who we are, in the greatness of being who we are, and freely expressing our creativity to co-create this dream. And who else is speaking to freedom of expression and freedom of speech? Urano in Géminis as well, no? So I think this will be a beautiful chance to look into any blockages, any wounds, that are limiting this expression, or limiting our ability to bring forward our message into the world and to really work with the wounding of our egos, which is also here. Yeah, so let us also remember the ruler of Gemini, Urano is there, right? Is Mercury, and he's going to be retrograde. No? So it looks a bit unstable for a while, because Mercury is also ruling over Mars in Virgo, whom is almost conjunct the South Node. So let us talk about that for a moment. Mars, he's the ruler of Aries, where Neptune and Saturn are. So it's important also what he's doing. He's joining the South Node, Ketu, in Virgo. I would say this is a deep cleansing, or purging, cutting, purifying, separating, discerning, letting go in Virgo. This happens this week. I think the first thing we are being invited to let go of with this configuration is control. And another perspective of this conjunction, and everything else that's going on, is that we might be shifting, changing objectives, goals, and what we think is truly important in our daily lives. It's truly a revision of how we're living our lives and how we want to live our lives. What is health? What is sanity in this world? And also bringing in Venus, because she's also in Gemini and also ruled by a retrograde Mercury. She's doing a very powerful activation this week as well, because she's speaking in a square with the nodes of fate, where Mars is as well. So it's really T-square, mutable T-square, which speaks to adaptability, flexibility. Yeah, it requires us in this state of dynamic balance, especially, I would say, Venus speaking to the North Node in Pisces brings serendipity, synchronicities, and it's a call of destiny, truly. In the matters of Venus, which are relationships, finances, beauty, values, resources, self-value. And in Gemini, I would say it has to do with our way of communicating, but I would anticipate some choice points, because it's the nodes of fate and it's Gemini, which usually brings sort of like crossroads into our lives. The thing is, in the context, it might feel like we are choosing with a blindfold, like we can't fully see, but we can deeply feel. And the intuitive realm is exalted, heightened, I would say. The calling into faith, into deep surrender to the sweet will, the sweet divine will, and hope is big, and it is a path towards these decisions. And to also know there is a certain relief, I guess, when we release control, relinquish control. The relief, I mean, is sometimes in knowing that it's not all in our hands, and that we can actually flow into this river that will eventually go back to the ocean, as always. And then clarity appears of what is truly in our hands for us to do with integrity. Mars in Virgo, no? With impeccability. Lastly, on the 17th, we have the quarter moon in Aries, conjunct Eris and Chiron as well. So truly, this really, I've been really reflecting on this. I think we are being called into rethinking the battles that we are a part of. No, if we truly want to stay in this scream of war, or if the moment of letting go of our weapons and rethinking the battles that we are positioning ourselves in is now. Yeah, it's a lot, no? Well, I hope this makes sense. This made sense and helps you make sense of whatever it is you are going through, which I deeply honor and respect. May this bring understanding and peace into your experience. That's what I have for now. Thank you. Blessings.